Welcome, everyone, to another edition of SCRC's Let's Talk Caregiving. I'm your host, Roberto Velasquez, President, CEO of Southern Caregiver Resource Center, and I'm here as always with my co-host, Marta Rañón, our Executive Vice President. How you doing, Marta?
I'm doing great, Roberto.
Excellent, excellent. Today I'm really excited about this podcast because I want to talk about continuous education. That need for additional information constantly, especially when you're a caregiver and you're thrust upon this new experience in life. Most of us don't go to school to be trained to be the caregiver unless that was going to be our profession. And so we're often, busy in our lives doing what we do and raising families. And then all of a sudden, we're taking care of our great aunt or our mother or our grandparent. And the lack of information that we have is so amazing because we're not prepared. We're not prepared. So education is so important to all of this.
You are speaking my language, Roberto, and obviously that's why I really enjoy doing the work that I do here at SCRC because in doing all of the classes, all of the conferences, the live stream, sessions that we have, it's exciting to be able to reach our caregiving audience in so many different ways. I know that as a former caregiver, we tell our caregivers, hey, get educated on what the disease that your loved one has is about so that you can understand it, you can learn a little bit more. And I know I tried doing that as well, but there is just so much that we don't know, and there is so much that we don't even know how to begin to tackle, that I can see why caregivers are feeling overwhelmed. And I'm glad that we're talking about this today, here with our audience.
Yeah, since the beginning, I mean, our organization, of course, Southern Caregiver Resource Center, has been around since 1987, and prior to that, the Caregiver Resource Center system was developed in 1984, just a few years prior to our organization becoming one of the caregiver resource centers in the state of California. The data continues to show that the main things that people need are support, an assessment with some care plans to help guide them through their day, respite care, so important to get a break, but the continuous need for information, whether it's about the disease that they're caring for, or information about how to manage behaviors, or information about how to even care for themselves. And that's one of the areas I think that we've done so well at Southern Caregiver Resource Center, going online to, especially during the pandemic when everything got shut down,
Mhm.
because of COVID-19, going online and just creating more and more and more content online just was a lifesaver to so many families who were so isolated and disconnected. So I'm so glad we're talking about this because this is just incredibly important.
I remember when I would do all of these classes in person and trying to get people to participate and we had a lot of great participation from caregivers who were really thirsty and hungry for more information. But it is difficult, to try to get to a location when you are caring for someone. It is difficult when you're trying to juggle work and children caregiving responsibilities. And so when we started doing the model of doing live streamed events, online programming, I know that exponentially that increased people's connection to these educational programs. And I was really excited to see that. And that's how we started doing our 1 minute tip videos, and we started doing our sessions every month online. And then, of course, we started doing our podcast, and now we have our Instagram, charlas, and it's all really exciting. And just when you think, okay, I think we've done everything we can do, then some other opportunity comes our way, and that's why I'm so glad that we've been talking about this new and exciting program at SCRC. And Roberta, I'm going to let you talk about that.
Yeah, thank you. So a while back, last year, in fact, I applied for some new funding to develop some really innovative programming. We know because our family caregivers, a majority of them, over 50%, are working caregivers. They don't have time to go to a classroom. They don't have time to sit there for an hour, 2 hours. And most caregivers don't, even if they're not working, because they're spending all day, sometimes all day and night, taking care of their loved one, whether they're working and doing that or whether they're at home and doing that. And of course, about 80% of all our clients have dementia. So when we were looking at designing something new, we were looking at those factors about the limitations that caregivers have.
And not only that, but it's mentally exhausting after a long day of caregiving to then sit in a class and, pay attention and take notes and try to learn. So that's why, to me, when we started doing these online classes, it was great because we would tell caregivers, hey, if you can do it at 10 o'clock at night when it's the time that you have, or maybe you start off 5 minutes and then you do 10 more minutes, and you do it at your own pace. It's really to work around your schedule.
You're absolutely right, and including the bandwidth that you're so exhausted, like you're saying, the bandwidth to sit there and even something in the evening that's online that is an hour or 90 minutes long or something of that nature is still overwhelming. So we came up with the idea, and luckily it was funded, and we're currently in development for an animated caregiver training program in 15-minute segments. So it's really exciting. We're calling it Empowering Caregivers, an animated toolkit for dementia care in the community. And this is a really, really exciting novel idea of taking,
I love the title. I love the
yeah, it's a
title of
great
that.
title. I just love the title.
Empowerment.
Right, and we're working with some partners on this. The George G. Glenner Alzheimer's Family Centers. We're working with St. Paul Senior Centers. We're working with Dr. Dolores Gallagher Thompson, retired professor over at Stanford University and researcher, currently researching, doing a lot of work. Of course, you look her up, Google her, she's everywhere. She's published like hundreds and hundreds of papers, but we're working with a great, great team to pull all this together. And I'm so excited because it's been quite an undertaking.
Oh, yes, it has. As a person that's very closely involved with this development of this program, it is a very large project. However, it is really exciting. It is really exciting because I know that to our audiences, some of the topics that we're going to be discussing are topics like, effective communication, and how to talk to your doctor, just topics that I know for many of our experience with caregivers, they're so crucial to when they are caregiving.
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is you can do a seminar on any one of these topics that we're going to be doing. But the fun part, I call it fun. Martha, you might disagree that it's not that much fun, but is consolidating, is taking curriculum that we've done, that we've with our partners, and it's proven curriculum, evidence derived curriculum, and then consolidating it into 15-minute segments. That is the challenge. But we feel like that is so important because the family members can then digest it quickly. And then they can turn on to the next one, or they can just shut it off and say, I learned something in 15 minutes. And then they can connect and also get additional resources from Southern Caregiver Resource Center.
It also based a lot of on our caregivers' experiences from the conversations that we've had with them about, hey, I'm here at the doctor's office and I'm quite invisible, but yet I'm the person that's caring for my loved one. How do I talk to the doctor? And so those are real questions that we hear from caregivers. And that's why putting these topics together, and one of them is about how to prepare for that doctor's visit. Um, our hope is that it would give you the skills as caregivers to feel empowered, to feel like you have some control over how you can guide the information that you're acquiring, the decisions that you're making, and how to support your loved ones.
Yeah, absolutely, Martha. And I know that because of the experience of the consortium, the groups that we're working with, our partners on all this, we're going to have just a very excellent, high quality program once they're published. We're hoping end of September or so, getting the first version of them. But then, just to add to the catalog of educational programs, we are also pulling together with our partners to culturally adapt the English version of this animated program into Spanish. And that, my friends, is another big undertaking, but we're all really excited to get involved in that.
I agree. But not only is it that it's a big undertaking, it's so exciting, Roberto, to be able to offer this to our communities. As you know, living in the border, we have a lot of our clients who are bi-regional, and therefore they kind of straddle both sides of the border. They have families on both sides of the border. And this is a community that is really reliant on, kind of multi-generational caregiving. And so to be able to culturally adapt, not just translate, but really the nuances, the understanding, the examples, and then hear from our communities what resonates with them, that is so exciting because that really puts us on the map. We are one of a very few organizations that I know of. I think we're the only one that does that, for sure in our region. And to be a part of that is really exciting for me.
Yeah, and in San Diego County, as you're saying, we have a Mexican border, Tijuana, and our county is over, I think, over 50% of our county is now Hispanic, and a large percentage are monolingual Spanish only. But then we also cover Imperial County. In Imperial County, you have even a greater population that's Hispanic Latino in Imperial County. And the great thing about it is that people can get it online. We're again designing these programs with that whole mindset that it's an online or smartphone platform so that you can listen in, learn something, feel good about what you learned, and know that it's coming from a long history of programming. So this is exciting. I can't wait to see our first animated educational programs and just again the complete focus on caregiving and very important topics that families are always thirsty to know about.
Yes. And, I keep thinking about when I was a caregiver. And again, this was before the pandemic. So we used to do things a little differently. But now in this society of, tech savviness and really technology at your fingertips, I find myself utilizing similar platforms for other things, right? I mean, think about it. We're trying to learn how to, I don't know, cook a recipe, and so you put on your headphones and you start, okay, follow this recipe, and you watch a YouTube video because you don't know how to, I don't know, cut a certain piece of wood, and so you're trying to figure out how to do a picture frame, and you're going to watch some video. And so we are so reliant on these type of different types of venues to learn. And so to be part of this, and kind of keep up with what how people are acquiring information, it's also really exciting for this organization. And I'm so glad that we're a part of it. I'm really hoping that caregivers who are listening, once we have these programs ready, that they will be contacting us, letting us know how they can be a part of this, how they can access some of these classes. That's going to be, I think, the real test to make sure that people know where to go for help should they need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's neat that you bring up the YouTube and how we're learning from YouTube. That's the whole philosophy, the theory behind these programs is the whole tell, show, do. Tell, show, do is basically the how to do things on YouTube. And that's how people are learning. Learning. So we're taking that model of learning and applying it to this 15-minute animations to make sure we're precise. We're telling people about the topic, we're showing them what are some of the best practices to address some of these issues. And the do is we can't actually show people how to do it because, or they can't show us how they're doing it, but there'll be little questions at the end that show if they learned something from the actual program.
And I'm thinking about how also the evolution of our classes, the classes that I used to do initially when I started with the organization and how I do them now, right? Again, I used to do them in front of an audience at some sort of a community room. And now this last couple of months we did this whole series on self-care and incorporating some activities for stress reduction. And so we talked about the topic, but then I showed the audience how to do it. And that was also really exciting because it's not just a lecture, it's not just a webinar, but it's putting into practice. Hey, this is how you do this. Let's breathe together. This is how you do deep breathing. And I know breathing kind of sounds silly because, hey, we all do it, but are we doing it in a way that's reducing our stress levels? And so that's why that series was also really exciting, because we haven't done that in the past, and now we're doing this. And that's why I really hope that caregivers out there can visit our website scrc.care to check out all of this different programming. Like I said, the 1 minute tip videos, these self-care stress reduction live stream classes. We've also done some on gardening, on cooking, all of these exciting topics that caregivers might think, I don't have time for this. But then as you start watching, you start realizing, hey, I can incorporate this into my caregiving day. And it's fun and it's also self care.
Yeah, and it's so important, Martha. I think one of the things as caregivers, everybody does consistently is they don't take care of themselves. And it's not until they feel that they've learned enough, or somebody like some with their family consultants or through our educational programs, they learn that taking care of yourself is just as important as taking care of the individual that you're now responsible for their safety and well-being. And self-care is just so important, so I'm glad we're pushing this kind of material out there. Self-care, I love those videos, by the way. Again, those are
Hmm.
evidence derived curriculum that Martha has designed from other programs and condensed them into manageable lengths of time so that family caregivers can actually learn something and not have to spend a whole hour or two sitting in a classroom. Even if it's an online classroom, that's a pretty long time for family caregivers. So, yes, Martha, the wonderful job with those programs, and I can't wait to see the animated programming, hopefully published sometime end of September,
Me neither.
and then
That's
expand.
exciting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's all the time we have left for this edition of Let's Talk Caregiving. To hear more of our podcasts, follow us on your favorite podcasting platforms or visit our website at scrc.care. I want to thank Martha for co hosting another important discussion and our audience for tuning in. If you're providing support to a loved one, you don't have to do this alone. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. To connect to our programs and services, visit our website at scrc.care or call us at 1-800-827-1008. If you live outside of San Diego and Imperial counties, visit caregivercalifornia.org and connect with the Caregiver Resource Center nearest you. To support our efforts and make a tax-deductible donation, please go to scrc.care and click on the Donate tab. And remember, SCRC is here for you,
Caring
caring
for
for
those
those who
who
care
care
for
for
others.
others.